There's a million toys for a million different boys. There's only one that I like. There's a million toys for a million different boys.
Okay, so I'm just in the barn and I'm doing some work on the bike, the motorbike, and I've just installed the Denali B6 auxiliary brake light on my 1200 GS. I thought it'd be quite interesting to show you what that looked like. It took me a little bit of time to figure it out. It's not hard to do, but there's a couple of little things, so if somebody had done this video, I think it would have helped me a lot as well. Okay, so like I said before, this is a 2014 BMW 1200 GS. It's not the Adventure, it's just a standard one, but I've done a few little bits to it. But I can use this as my commuting bike, so I do about 16,000 miles a year on this bike. Quite a bit of that on the motorway, quite a bit at night, a lot in the winter. So all year, 365 days a year. The only thing that will stop me is snow and ice. So I've had a couple of moments where I was getting a bit close to, cars behind me, just getting a little bit close. And it was, I know I can outbrake them, but I don't really want somebody running into the back of me on the motorway. So I thought what I'd do, in addition to the BMW brakes, which are great, they're an LED bulb, there's 3 or 4 bulbs, I think there's 4 bulbs that just run down the bottom here and reflect off and up out the back. They're great, but it sometimes gets hovered, and I have a top box that goes on the top up here, and I have luggage at the side, and these lights just get absorbed, they get hidden within the sort of the braking area. So I wanted to put this Denali B6 brake light on there, and I got this from Nippy Norman's, but you can get them for about £80–90 on Amazon. They're really good, they're fantastic. But the installation of this is something I want to talk a little bit about. First of all, it mounts on the underside of the number plate, so it's dead easy to mount through to the number plate. Just a piece of advice, if you are going to drill through the number plate, always put a bit of masking tape or a bit of duct tape over it as you drill it. Stops it flaking, stops the number plate cracking and flaking through. Behind the number plate here, and I'll show you round on the side, so the side of the number plate at the back of the BMW is this area here, which is the rear end tidy, actually, area on the back of the BMW. It's a large plate, and it covers virtually all the number plates. The number plate's got a lot of rigidity to it anyway, but this rear end tidy here is actually quite large as well. So you end up with quite a large bracket that you can mount it to. So dead easy. There's adjusters here either side of the bracket, so you can actually move the brake light left and right if you want to, but the height doesn't change a lot, so you've got to make sure you drill these in the right place. Left and right. So what I did at the back, which I thought was as tidy as I could do, is I took the brake line up through the bottom of the tidy here, and there's a little gap, there's a little recess that runs just up the side up here, and you can just about make that out. There's a little recess that runs up there, and then I took the line up inside this arm here, right to the top, and then through the tail tidy at the top. So it goes up inside, and inside there, at the top of the tail tidy, as it goes inside, up in here, I drilled a small hole through, and that's to get into the rear area where I've got it connected up, and I'll show you that now. So as you can see, I use a Hex Easy Can to attach the CANbus on the BMW. A lot of people use the Denali one as well. Hex and Denali both do the same job. They give you adaptability to add lights and play with how the lights turn on, and brakes and all sorts of things. So you can adjust all the bits on the bike. They're really, really good. So anyway, so the line that came up through from the back here, from the Denali, this cable, this wire is attached in. You can't take that out. There's a sort of a waterproof grommet seal on the back here. And that then brings it up through here in the line. You have to unbolt the rear tidy here at the back. There's a couple of bolts that come off, and there's some at the side as well where the brake lights, where the indicators are. So you have to undo this, take this whole rear tidy section off, and then as you look through it, you can drill just through the underside of it. And then once that hole's drilled through and I've brought it into the bike area, I resealed that hole. I just used a hot glue gun just to reseal the hole so that no water would come through it. So as you can see, I've got the cable coming out from the hole I've drilled through the back here, in the back of the underneath the seat. That's where I brought the cable up through the tidy at the back. Bit of tape to hold it in place. Now this is the long cable that you get from Denali. So it gives you this long cable that comes out, and you get this connector at the end here, which this connector then has 3 wires coming out. So the red one is the running light wire. So this is the daylight running light wire. If you were going to connect this straight to the bike, you need to put that to the positive end of the running light. Because I'm going through Denali or I'm going through a Hex EasyCAN, I don't need that running light. That's already programmed into the actual brain of the box, so that doesn't need it. So the only 2 wires I'm concerned about is the positive, which is the orange, and then the negative, which is the black. So when you come to do this, the red wire, I've just taped them all up together, and then what I've done is I've just folded the red back in on itself and capped it off. So you can see that there. So the red wire, which is the daylight running wire, isn't needed. You only need these 2. So you've got the positive line and then the negative line. That's all you need for the Denali or the Hex EasyCAN, and that will work it out. The EasyCAN's intelligent enough to do it. A little point though with these Tyco connectors is that you have to basically build them up. So you put the wires through the back here. It's a waterproof seal at the back, goes through there, and you clip them onto 2 metal spades. They stick out through. Point, just make sure, if I can get this to focus, just make sure those 2 spades in there come out a decent length from the internal parts. I had them just poking out maybe 2 or 3 mil. That wasn't long enough. They need to be out maybe 7 or 8 mil, sticking through that plastic part there, so that when it comes out, push them in hard enough so that then it can make a positive connection to the other end, to the sort of the female end, if you like, going onto here. These spades then go into those holes and have to make a really good connection. I wasn't getting a connection because I hadn't pushed these through far enough. So make sure that when you are doing the Tyco connectors, that those do go far enough in. So then all you have to do is connect that up. Once that's clipped into place, that's absolutely fine. Then all you do is program your EasyCAN with the auxiliary brake light. So the 3 things that I would say were important about this that nobody told me before I did it was that, looking at the diagram you get with the brake light here, the daylight running light you don't need if you've got an EasyCAN or a Hex or a Denali CAN. The orange one is the positive, and the black one's the negative. When you are connecting them up, however, there is no, on my one, the EasyCAN, there isn't an orange, there's a yellow. So I'm looking at yellow is my positive feed, black is the negative. So that sort of seemed to work out quite well. And then when you program it up, you can adjust how the brake light comes on. So you can have it coming flashing as you're braking heavily. You can adjust the daylight running brightness. You can adjust the brake intensity brightness. All sorts of things. It's fantastic. So once that's all in place, you've got it all wired in. You've plugged in your computer, you've got to plug in the laptop to the EasyCAN and to program it up. So what I've got here on the daylight running side of it, so this is just the lights turned on at the moment, I've got this set at 10%. So the daylight running is literally at 10% and it's still incredibly bright. So I didn't want to make it so distracting that cars were going to be staring at it and not looking at the brake light, but I wanted a difference between the daylight running and the brake just to emphasize when I am braking heavily. So as you can see, compare it to the normal BMW brake light. They're pretty similar brightnesses actually. It's a slightly different type of red. It's more red. This is slightly, maybe more a little bit with a number plate light reflecting down, a little bit of a lighter light. But this one's definitely got everybody's attention, and it's a bit low down, so it keeps it away from all the luggage, keeps it away from all your, you've got panniers on the side, or top box, or pinion, or somebody with legs down here. There's a lot going on at the back of the bike, but this really is isolated. It's completely away from everything else, and it really is quite an impressive light. Being angled slightly as well with the number plate vertically would be here, so it's angled at about a 30-degree angle, so it is actually shining back towards the drivers, which is actually really important. And I'll show you what it looks like when I put the brakes on. So that's obviously daylight running light, and if I put the brake on now, as you can see, the intensity is huge. In fact, it's making the camera go a little bit blurry. So you can see with that I've got quite a strong light that's coming out. Now you can adjust that manually through the laptop, and then on top of that, I also have a system where that if I'm braking heavily, it will flash. It's sort of a bit like the American system. I think they call it a US function on the laptop when you program it up. So if I'm braking heavily and I'm braking at a certain rate, it's got motion sensors in the EasyCAN. It can pick that up and it will flash this on and off just to really highlight the fact I'm braking heavily. A lot of cars have it now as well, but I think it's a really good function. It just gets people's attention a little bit more. But that's basically it. Sort of, it didn't take long to do. It's just I wanted to make sure it was nice and tidy at the back here. I had no loose cables, and it was nice and dry in there as well. So obviously with the rear tyre, you're going to throw a lot of rubbish up into this rear tail tidy. Didn't want any holes leaking back into underneath the seat.